Fresh facts have reportedly emerged about compensation paid to victims of the 1996 Pfizer meningitis vaccination test in Kano State. A former Minister of Justice and Attorney General of the Federation, Chief Michael Aondoakaa, senior advocate of Nigeria, had been accused of diverting a huge chunk of the $6 billion compensation meant for the victims, who reportedly received $75 million instead. Well, luckily, we're now being joined by Chief Aondoakaa, SAN, to speak more on the latest development as well as respond to other issues relating to the Abuja Games Village and the Steve Oronsaye report, which recently got a presidential go-ahead for implementation. Good to have you on Newsday. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you very much.
Well, I would like you to react, to allegations that you diverted money that was meant to pay compensation to families of victims of the Pfizer test. We know this story has been ongoing for a while. What are you doing, to clear your name, to protect your reputation?
Well, thank you very much. First and foremost, we had nothing. The federal government had nothing to do than to give support to the Kano State government. When I came in, the just immediate past vice president was the prosecutor engaged by Kano State government. But it was very necessary for the federal attorney general to own to it and to grant him the fear to prosecute because the people were foreigners. And there was a lot of pressure, but I went ahead and I granted the fear for them to prosecute. I did not stop there. I went ahead and under mutual assistance treaty requested for the Pfizer directors who were directly involved in the massacre, what I used to call it massacre in Kano, should be brought to justice in Nigeria. And I forced Pfizer to its knees. But when it came to the issue of the direct compensation, Kano State government had already set up a committee. And I felt there was no need for the federal government because the victims were directly people in Kano, children in Kano. And I asked Kano State government, since they had their lawyer, the former vice president, and he was very competent, they should go ahead and have direct negotiation. They negotiated and then arrived at the sum of money, which was $75 million. But initially, before I came in, Pfizer was offering $100,000 per victim. The argument was a Nigerian policeman, if he dies on duty, we pay $100,000. I told them the victims could have been president. Some of them could have been even Secretary General of the United Nations. They were children, and I would not support that idea. So I went ahead and issued a warrant, got the Federal High Court to issue a warrant for their arrest. And I also sent a warrant to the Interpol. But when it came to the monetary aspect, I said the money should be negotiated with Kano State government and paid directly to Kano. Not a kobo came to the Ministry of Justice. And even when they wanted to have the National Hospital upgraded as part of the compensation, I directed them to go to Kano. And the Kano State government should give them a land and issue. So the Federal Minister of Justice had nothing to do. I ought to be commended. But one striking aspect you get from that is that the whole world have come to understand how Pfizer hired people to investigate me and go ahead to put pressure on me, which I resisted in the interest of the country. From 100,000 naira to 75,000, I think I ought to have been commended. Whatever happened as regard to the compensation in Kano, I did not know, but I knew that Kano State government was giving $75 million, and I also knew that Kano State government was to provide land for Pfizer to build a hospital, a children's hospital there. Federal government, the money could have been sent to the Ministry of Justice, Federal Minister of Justice, to me, but I felt that I don't want to have anything to do with Pfizer. Considering I was quite aware that they were blackmailing me, but I was determined to make sure that they pay for it. So whatever Kano State government negotiated and accepted with them, I had no hand in it. Thank you.
All right. I was just going to ask you about whether or not you were aware at the time that they were trying to get you to put pressure on you by exposing your supposed corruption links in order to drop the case or drop the amount of the settlement, which did reduce from 6 billion naira to 75 million naira. But I also want to ask you.
That was the...
Okay, go ahead, please answer to that.
That was a claim of the Kano people. That was a claim. My duty was to ensure that I grant fear to the lawyer the Kano people engaged. My duty was to ensure, invoked a mutual legal assistance treaty between Nigeria and United States to ensure that the people were brought to justice in Nigeria. My duty was to ensure that arrest warrant was issued and I communicated the arrest to Interpol. But I did not get involved in the monetary portion because at first we have no data. Kano State government had data. Kano State government under Shekara requested the assistant of the office of the Attorney General through the president, and I provided them every necessary assistance. What led to them collecting 75,000, that should be directed to the former governor of Kano State, not me. And what I did is that I was not involved in the monetary payment. Payment was not made to federal government through my office. Payment was made directly to Kano State government. Even the legal fees, which Pfizer was to indemnify, I directed them to negotiate with Kano State government. I had no hand in it. But it was funny. I believe the current president will take steps to protect me, a public servant. I was doing what I was supposed to do. And it's disgraceful for Pfizer to have hired somebody to go around and check whether I had corruption matters. But I did not care because as I'm talking here, I don't have a single account anywhere in the world except in Nigeria, so I did not care. I had pressure within even members of the Federal Executive Council that Pfizer got to make sure that I dropped and I do not issue the fiat and I did not issue an international arrest warrant. But I had the support of my president and the support of the country, and I went ahead and did. The world has come to know the kind of company Pfizer was. It's up to Nigeria to stand up to defend what I did. Thank you.
Fair enough. I know you said you were not directly involved in any of the negotiations, but were you aware of exactly how many families were paid that $75 million settlement?
You know, the initial thing was that the platform was that I created a platform, the Kano State, to negotiate. I told them that no single family that lost somebody should collect less than $1 million for the head. And those who had permanent injury should also collect $1 million. Those who had partial injury should not be less than 500. And I think Kano State must have complied with that template. But I was very careful the way Pfizer was going about trying to put pressure on me and trying to implicate me in corruption-related matters. I preferred that since the victims were in Kano, and it was Kano State government that requested the help of the federal government, they should negotiate on the quantum of payments set based on the parameters I set and pay Kano State directly. I'm used to this. Before then, you must have heard that another judgment came that I paid Utan Bara community. My law firm was participating in it and I shared the money. Just recently, documents also came out that the payment happened before I became Attorney General. The payment happened before I became Attorney General. So that is the kind of thing I've gone through. The payment happened and was made by Biogen in 2006. I became Attorney General on the 17th of July 2007. So how was I involved? My law office was then in Makurdi. So how could I have gone to Akwa Ibom to get involved? By any case, the truth is coming out, and the Nigerian, I am the most investigated person. If you see Pfizer investigating me, I am the best investigator to rope me. They couldn't get me. Now you try to rope me, and I believe Pfizer was the one that cooked out the issue of the judgment. They tried to hide the fire, but recently the fire has been discovered. Payment was made 2006. I was Attorney General 2000. My law firm, it was Afebabara Joagi and others who participated. So the matter is back to court. Now, certainly judgment was obtained by fraud. That is the kind of thing, and I will not talk further because the matter is still in court.
Well, thank you so much, for giving us clarity on that. Indeed, there are allegations that, the Nigerian government at that time, dropped a federal litigation suit against Pfizer because they were able to dig up dirt and use some corrupt practices that you were allegedly involved in. But you talked about not having data, which is why you dropped the federal litigation. If it was a case of data, couldn't you work hand in hand with the Kano State government to get the data and proceed
Kano State government requested. Kano State government have no power to cause the arrest of people outside the jurisdiction, which is Nigeria. I was the only person with the power, and I did what I caused for the arrest under Mutual Legal Assistance Treaty and through the international warrant issued by a court, which I gave to Interpol. That was a role Kano State government was lacking, and I provided it. And all the data was with Kano State government or people who were involved. The outbreak was in Kano, and the report came from Kano State Ministry of Health. So it did not make sense to say that something happened in Kano. And Kano, we are practicing a federation. Kano State government decides on the situation. Why will I go and get involved in the details? What I said is that no single Nigerian that died, the victim, the family should not collect less than 1 million. And I made this very clear to Pfizer because I was pissed off for Kano Pfizer executive to look at me in the face and say, your Nigerian policeman, when he dies on duty, he collects 100,000. I was very pissed off. And that is what made me to immediately order for the arrest. They escaped. And I have to go through Interpol and arrest them, give Kano State government to prosecute them. So that was the situation there.
Well, it's certainly understandable when Nigerians show vaccine hesitancy and a fear of big pharma, especially with cases like this. But I want to move on to other matters of the day, specifically the state of the nation as is on ground now. You do know that the president a few weeks back had spoken about the implementation of the Oronsaye report, which to most of us is a happy, a positive step forward. We all want to see government look leaner and agencies that are doubling on work to get merged. But we also know that it has been implemented 3 times before by previous administrations to no effect. So what do you think that the Tinubu administration could do differently in order to make sure that it sticks this time and it actually becomes something that is beneficial for Nigerians, especially in this time when we are all feeling it in our pockets?
Well, first of all, people who are advising the president must have taken into consideration certain things. Our industries in the private sector are not working. The insecurity, which is the agro-based industries, they can't have products. And then to massively retrench people is not legally possible. People working in those parastatals that they are trying to amazed have acquired rights, and their appointment have constitutional flavor. They are not in the private sector that you wake up and say, your services are no longer needed. Maybe, perhaps, the chief executive who are appointed by the president. The people will go to court, certainly they will go to court because their appointment has statutory flavor, so it has a constitutional flavor. Go to the Constitution, acquired rights are not to be taken away except in accordance with the law. So if somebody is working in a parastatal that has been merged with other ones, certainly he cannot be terminated to downsize. The only benefit is that maybe multiple chief executives and executive directors who are appointed by the president, it might affect them. But the ordinary staff, it cannot affect them because you cannot just wake up. A person who is working in a government establishment, his appointment has constitutional flavor. And you cannot say because I've made, he doesn't have an office. Because the law says he should retire when he works 35 years or when he's 60 years. Or where there's a proven case of gross misconduct. So if any of this is not on the table, how will you just walk up and say you made parastatal this to parastatal, all the staff should go? They will all go to court. So that is one factor. And two, all of these organizations are established by Act of Parliament. I was waiting to hear whether a bill will be sent to National Assembly to repeal. I did not hear that, but maybe they are working behind the scene to send a bill because the president cannot just say, I have made and done away with parastatals that have been established by law. So that's an area they have to look critically. This matter is so squarely a matter of the Attorney General and the National Assembly. Maybe the president will send an executive bill to repeal some of the parastatals. But the Attorney General must advise on how the people whose appointments had constitutional flavor. Otherwise, they are civil servants protected by the Constitution with specific retirement timeline and why they can be disengaged from civil service. So this is some of the things I believe. But I believe multiple chief executives where there's duplication is unnecessary. That the government can achieve. But down to the size of management, apart from that chief executives, to start or the staff, they cannot be downsizing. It's not possible. It's not possible, legally possible. They are protected by the Constitution. But even on social aspects, which I'm alluding to you, where are the jobs that if you take them out, where are the jobs when you take them out? Where are the jobs that you can go and give them in the private sector? And the president is a very humane person. So me also, I'm advising that these must be handled with extreme care so that we do not have litigation all over. Also, the president should not be seen to, who has a very popular mandate, should not be seen to be doing something that directly affects majority of the staff who may be declared redundant. But I have already ruled out that there's no provision for government staffs who have acquired rights under the Constitution by way of their appointment to be declared redundant. And if that happens, you have several multiple litigations that will come out. I don't think anybody in the legal department or the Ministry of Justice can afford to defend. How will somebody defend? So that is my stake. So it's something that the Office of the Attorney General should be contacted to look at all the parastatals, their legislation, whether it was by Act of Parliament, and take steps to see how they can merge those legislation by sending them back to National Assembly and knowing how they can save the civil servants who are there. That's my position on it.
Well, we do know that a presidential aide has tried to reassure Nigerians, that none of the jobs of those that will be affected by the merger, that none of them will lose their jobs. So how possible that is, I guess time will tell. Now, let's move on, to the issue.
I think that is a pleasing thing.
Yes, definitely it is. But
it's a pleasing thing.
How well can that be achieved? We have to wait and see.
That means me. Yeah, we wait and see. It's a very pleasing statement. And I believe President Bola Tinubu will not do such a thing. He cannot just expect ordinary Nigerians who are civil servants to just go to the street one day that measures have taken place. Certainly, that may not be intention. The intention may be clearly in respect of the multiple chief executives doing one job. Organizations having similar functions, but the chief executives are two, and enjoying the benefits of chief executive, exotic cars and whatever. I think that is the kind of bureaucracy he's trying to do away. But down the level of civil servant working in those organizations, I'm afraid it's nearly impossible to retrench them or to make them redundant.
Oh, thank you so much for bringing clarity, to that point. Now, we know that you recently, I beg your pardon, we know that you recently wrote to the Minister of the Federal Capital Territory, that's Mr. Nyesom Wike, as the solicitor for the registered trustees of Games Village, Abuja. You are seeking the review and revocation of all allocations that you say were approved by the seat. What more can you tell us about this? Very briefly, please.
Where the Games Village in 2005, the Federal Executive Council, which is the highest body, gave that parcels of land to the Game Village Association. It's there in the ESCO meeting. They were to build a school, they were to build some playground for the children, and also specifically gave them the premises of the developers of games to be their office. It's there in the record. And suddenly, previous administration attempted to snatch that and divide the land to people who have money. These people are largely middle-class people. And they went to court. And the court in 2017 gave a restraining order. They tried to mislead the previous. Anytime a new minister comes, the people come to mislead the minister. So when the immediate past minister of FCT came to discover there was subsisting court order, he went to the premises himself. He was shocked to see that they were given allocations where there were schools, where there was playground for children, where there was provisions for hospital, and he stopped it. There was a quick notice, he stopped. Immediately he left, they came back again, and this time they came with force. They demolished the building which Federal Executive Council gave to the resident of the Association of the Games Village. They demolished the building unilaterally in violation of the subsisting court order, and the case is still pending. And I believe my friend Nyesom Wike is a lawyer. So I took steps to communicate to him that they must have misrepresented facts to him or for him to authorize, or they must have come unilaterally without informing him. So I sent him the court order, and I asked him to call his people to order. Already, 8 of the officers who went there, contempt proceedings have commenced against them. But the important thing is this. A big place like Games Village, federal government gave those premises. Don't we have regard for the children? An estate like Games Village, don't we make provision for schools? Can't we make provision for hospitals? This was done by the Federal Executive Council in 2005 under President Obasanjo. No other Federal Executive Council has reversed that. So which authority? Because the Federal Executive Council derives its power from Section 5 of the Constitution, executive powers. And if a president said this is the position, and it became a resolution of the Federal Executive Council, how can officials of FCDA go back and try to do what they're doing, in spite of even a valid court order? So I have informed him. Graciously enough, they also came there, tried to doctor, because the previous minister ordered that they should be interministerial, the ministry's committee with the resident association to find areas that are conducive for playground, areas that are for hospital, areas that are for schools. The meeting, they went and doctored the fact that there has been a report. They never met the resident association, not even a day. So we have confirmed the position to the minister, and I believe, I know him too well, that the next 3 or 4 months old, he must have built a school there for the resident, having become size of the situation. I don't see him doing otherwise, allowing people to come outside and build either hotels on premises reserved by Federal Executive Council for schools. After all, he's a member of the Federal Executive Council and governments the continuity.
Well,
this is the situation. That was the premise in which I intervened because I was quite aware of the Federal Executive Council.
Fair enough, fair enough.
And they also, mind you, they got extract of this Federal Executive Council for the office of SGF, and they also got a court order.
All right.
It's left for this government to protect them or allow the hacks do what they want.
Well, we have exhausted our time. It was a pleasure speaking with you this afternoon. Former Attorney General of the Federation and Minister of Justice, Michael Aondoakaa, thank you for joining us.